Dude, there are no words to describe how I feel after seeing this episode. It was just horrible. It all began when my friends and I were working animates on Nickelodeon with the upcoming episodes of the 10th season of SpongeBob quietly. It was already lunchtime and was too greedy. I always bought one of those Big Mac hamburgers. I brought it at McDonald's BTW, pretending to be made by SpongeBob in there. Instead of a jelly on top, thinking it was jelly. Or flipping water, but I distracted myself. How silly it was at that time. But everything changed. I was making one more of my human jokes in the cafeteria with everyone. When suddenly there was a loud screaming in the door that led to a test room, where the reviewers of the series could see if the episode was in order. So while everyone in the cafeteria, including the shopkeepers, listened to the fight, a sinister guy came out of there, agonizing. The reveals was something that seemed to be a sack of vomit, also sobbing, and of course, the show's creator, Steven Hilberg, crying a lot and shouting things like, "How do you have the courage of doing this, you monster?" And, "Is there Matulus?" That's Hulk crying intensely and kicking and talking to himself. When the sinister guy picks up a sack he had stored at his backpack, and then tries to find some to sit on. And ironically, because of the fight he had with Hillenberg, no one wanted him to sit anywhere near them, but I wanted to. After a quick fight with friends, finally agreed to let him sit with us. Something that was only decided when he was about to leave and go home. When he sits down slowly, everyone could see just what he's like. He had a rather deep look and an emo-like look on his face, in addition to a dark jacket and he ate his chocolate cake. It was strange to hear that kind of looked like blood, but much darker and thicker. After a while, he started talking to that guy and discovered that his name was Mike. He loved things that were creepy. He had even heard of Squidward's Suicide, a famous creepypasta on the internet, and he loved horror games. Like Outlast should have led into making the episode, and Sonic.exe with my friends. So my friends were terrifying. For me, it was something significant to sit with. So I was slow currently by Outlast, but was never taken to do things like that at most if he was depressed. After a long conversation, it turned out the lunchtime was over and it was time to get back to animation. When I do studio, my graphic starts to sob. Anyone emo would do. It's something that looks like a DVD in his hand. After an interminable crying session, he finally stops and distressed that he will be fired from the community of his dreams. He says something very odd to me. Take this episode and tell me what you think of it. I think you'll like it. He had not given himself enough time to finish what he was about to say as the police grabbed him and dragged him to the police station to clear the case. He threw the quote and everything down so I could see it later. And he looks at me with a face of pure depression. When I set the record on the cover, he hid between my hands and went back to the room. Where I worked to find out later my worst. When I finally entered the house, I decided to watch DVD, preparing my dinner since I was single at the time. When I inserted the disc into my DVD player, I had stopped working, went back to the room. Strangely, the reader had stopped working and turned off. When I turned it back on, the player's home screen had been replaced by a black screen. Something that looked like blood blurred behind it, but I ignored it, but thinking it was just some glitch on the DVD, and I decided to watch it on my PlayStation 2 while I ate dinner. I was having. Meanwhile, I will see the DVD's cover, which said something odd for a coming episode of SpongeBob. The cover was all white, and there was only SpongeBob, and around the center was a kitchen knife. If you will call order with me, and perhaps a little distressed, and above, the logo of a drawing, looking at the back of the hood, was something about Bob's arms stretched out and very dry, even to his skin. Also alongside his arm, an image of his family, journeying with something that looks like like cartoonish blood. I was really a little worried about the situation. What happened to SpongeBob's parent all the time? And my answer was resolved when the DVD finally loaded for the endless 12 seconds of the introduction of a PlayStation 2. I started to devour my dinner while SpongeBob intro started. It seemed very, very strange and different from what we used to seeing. The scenery was terribly dark, gloomy, and there were words written in very dark blood that flowed very slowly. The scene was looped in virtual DJ or something like that. On top of all this, SpongeBob was seen with a face of concern and, and fear, as if predicting something god awful was gonna happen to him. After Bob used his food, still worried, this scene literally hangs on the scene created by Steven Helper for 7 seconds until you see a frustrated attempt to apply a badly redressed jump scare in the editing program. Something awful that nobody wants to have as wallpaper. I only discovered seeing frame by frame in Sony Vegas, which is the game overseeing of Sonic.exe, but in 3D, and Sonic scene not so much has small teeth and a snake sound, and the phrase "I am God" was not visible. Curiously, the animation seemed identical to the episode Fear of a Krabby Patty. When the title call of the episode appears, instantly after the quotation mark jump scare without sound, and the name of the episode was written in bloody red cartoon and the asylum. In the background was a black screen. The background music was something very odd, as if it was the song played, but much shorter, of a series that always touch when something bad in the series. When it comes to traditional bubbles in the series, which subs the front view of SpongeBob himself in a happy tone. We enter the house where we see SpongeBob talking on the phone with his parents, who decide to visit him for his job. After closing the phone, he begins to clean his house for his parents, while singing a god-awful song that made my ears bleed. The music was so bad that it annoyed Squidward as usual, but it was more to go than usual, because besides him screaming like he was on the verge of death's door, he tore off part of his round blue. When Squidward furiously goes to the house of SpongeBob and knocks on the door with such ferocious force it was needed, Bob instantly meets Squidward. However, Bob did not seem happy at first. He seemed concerned, sweating, trying to make it SpongeBob asks him, Squid, you do not do again with me, do you? And Squidward simply closes the door hard, knocking Bob to the ground, making him faint. When he wakes up, he thinks it's all just a nightmare, which is I thought so too, and calms down. He gets up, his parents were already at the door ringing the bell. Bob cheerfully greets his parents and tenderly begs them to sit while Bob prepares tea and a delicious chocolate cake. He forgets in ignorance and asks for permission to go to the grocery store while his parents have tea. Things start to get on with the episode. There was simply a SpongeBob loop walking on the sideway for 3 minutes until finally a strange thing happens. As SpongeBob walks, the scenery got darker and darker. Bob looked at the horizon and saw a strange things. Example, the sky became red as blood, and the inhabitants beneath him were killed as if some sort of genocidal massacre. Someone Tom, the guy who just chocolate all the time. He was half dead, almost, bleeding up breathlessly through his mouth, and was trying to speak and breathe, but could not because he was almost drowned in his blood. SpongeBob, concerned, and starts to turn around to his house. He begins to sweat and worry about his parents and his soul. The sky seemed more redder and darker to the point of becoming almost black. The next sky was red. He always said, "My egg!" was found by Bob hanging on the door of SpongeBob's house with something that seemed to be his bowels and his lungs tied at the door, and incredibly he still seemed alive as his lungs stretched and his broken trachea still seemed to move slowly, and the eyes of Fred were still a little open, about to close with the pain he endured. I began to feel sick to my stomach with his scenery. When Fred was presented dead like that at the door, SpongeBob's house, I just puked, just as he all did as the scene, albeit more quietly. I paused the episode and was thinking, what kind of sick bastard would do that? And why would he do that? It's almost like Sonic.exe. And I was undecided when I went to continue or not while cleaning my vomit in the living room. Out of sheer curiosity, I wanted to continue watching this atrocity. Oh god, I wish I didn't. Back on the PlayStation 2, Bob decides to enter the house through the back door and leave Fred there, suffering. But Bob walks in a huge pool of blood, knocks him to the ground, and suddenly there is a horribly loud and realistic screaming from someone who was dying inside some sort of mortar by a lethal injection, followed by a deep chuckle sounding demonic. It resembles that of Freddy Fazbear, only fans will know the reference. Then SpongeBob calmly climbs the stairs leading to his bedroom, where the horrible screams came from, and then the scene cuts to 4 seconds loop of his feet, more and more covered with a more realistic dark blood, flowing into the room, and you see SpongeBob's face in full screen, sweating realistically as if a drop of water falls from the television screen and moaning horribly. That's when SpongeBob opens his door, voice whispering the words suicide appear out of nowhere and give it a bad headache. Bob then seems to scream, but his voice isn't heard as we heard it. He had a cut in audio. You know, any jerk wants to make about lost episodes always makes the video editing Nazi in exchange for good animation. But I felt the pain of SpongeBob became sick to the point of taking a pill when for 3 minutes median SpongeBob's parents were leaning against his bed, which seemed to have a corpse with his guts and brain out, and his eyes gouged out, hanging on the corners of Bob's head, staring into nowhere. SpongeBob's parents were killed in the gruesomely, with their organs exposed, followed by blood even more realistic than before, covering much of the floor, and the father seemed to have broken his glasses, and his eyes weren't there, only leaving a black spear around the hole, as if someone gouged them out violently. SpongeBob's mother was way worse, because her mouth was sewn together and formed a river of sticky blood on her clothing. Her eyes had also been plucked out by something sharp and appeared over her bleeding hair. The weather starts to darken. The room starts to red than normal, then it starts to get unnerving. And when the exit door seems to close itself, then you see Squidward, but more disturbing, with blood soaking his bodies. His eyeballs all black with red pupils, which seem to bleed a lot, and his mouth seems to have devoured something different at lunch, for his teeth were terribly sharp and long, including their prey, and teeth had pieces of flesh all over their mouth. Besides, in a soft yet frightening voice, held a dirty knife with dark, honey-colored blood. Then, ironically, the voices increased to the joy of my ears that could no longer stand so much whisper. Squidward then approaches SpongeBob to close by saying the last words of this atrocity. It's your end, SpongeBob. If you want to survive, you have to be just like me. No, Squidward, please, I'll do anything. Please, spare me. Then, eat your parents like a cake. So SpongeBob looks at his parents with contempt, but you do not want to be a cannibal, and tries to escape through the window. But Squidward was as fast as Sonic, and took him by his pants with his blood-sucked tentacle and carried him into the room again. only black screen page in part where Primo SpongeBob was just chilling and realistic, which could hear several no's as he screamed in agony and anguish, and then suddenly appears the credits of a drawing ring still on a dark screen. But the music was one used in the series. After that, I saw Patrick on SpongeBob SquarePants movie in the scene where his open mouth sees the car being devoured by a gigantic monster in a ditch that went to Shell City. I could not sleep for months thinking about the episode, but I ended up easily getting over what happened again. I came back to animate the series, but I was very terrified of spoiling it, thinking that he would murder all the innocents and jump off the screen to slaughter me. After Mike got his ass arrested, he stayed there for a year until his release, where his wealthy parents got him off the chain, disappointing. For his former friends, I discovered that he had been a calm and joyful person for a long period of time. For some reason, he ended up sinister and not unhealthy for Saturnia. And to this day, we don't know why. He's currently my friend. I'll have allusions to his unhealthy episode. I asked him at all the time why he's so sensitive to his wife making a mistake on Nickelodeon and being arrested for it. He always said, it's for an even more obscure reason.